Earlier today, and we're seeing a whole bunch of these, we've been talking about it all week. We're going to talk more about it next week. Nominees from the Biden administration appearing before the U.S. Senate. Well, today in front of the Health Committee, Rachel Levine, who he has been, or he's transgendered individual. He has been selected by Joe Biden as the Assistant Secretary of Health and Human Services. Joining me now to talk more about this is Travis Weber, Vice President of Policy here at the Family Research Council. Travis, welcome.
Thank you, Tony.
All right, we're going to play a clip of an exchange between Rand Paul, Senator from Kentucky, and Rachel Levine. Now, set it up for us. What was taking place?
Yes, so Tony, he is being nominated for the position of Assistant Secretary at HHS, important position. The hearing was bringing out matters relevant to that. So Rand Paul asked a simple question about gender transition for procedures for minors, and this is what we're going to hear today. I mean, this highlights how it's important for people to know Levine's background in Pennsylvania and the type of people Biden is nominating and the consequences of this. And we're going to hear a pretty clear illustration of that with this clip.
All right, folks, it's a little long, but I want you to listen to it because it is very enlightening.
Do you support the government intervening to override the parent's consent to give a child puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and/or amputation surgery of breasts and genitalia? You have said that you're willing to accelerate the protocols for street kids. I'm alarmed that poor kids with no parents who are homeless and distraught, you would just go through this and allow that to happen to a minor. I would hope that you would have compassion for Kira Bell, who's a 23-year-old girl who was confused with her identity. At 14, she read on the internet about something about transsexual. She thought, well, maybe that's what I am. She ended up getting these puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones. She had her breasts amputated. But here's what ultimately she says now. And this is a very insightful decision from someone who made a mistake but was led to believe this was a good thing by the medical community. I made a brash decision as a teenager, as a lot of teenagers do, trying to find confidence and happiness, except now the rest of my life will be negatively affected, she said, adding that the medicalized gender transitioning was a very temporary, superficial fix for a very complex identity issue. What I'm alarmed at is that you're not willing to say absolutely minors shouldn't be making decisions to amputate their breast or to amputate their genitalia. For most of our history, we believe that minors don't have full rights and the parents need to be involved. So I'm alarmed that you won't say with certainty that minors should not have the ability to make the decision to take hormones that will affect them for the rest of their life. Will you make a more firm decision on whether or not minors should be involved in these decisions?
Senator, transgender medicine is a very complex and nuanced field, and if confirmed to the position of Assistant Secretary of Health, I would certainly be pleased to come to your office and to talk with you and your staff about the standards of care and the complexity of this field.
Let it go into the record that the witness refused to answer the question. The question is a very specific one. Should minors be making these momentous decisions? For most of the history of medicine, we wouldn't let you have a cut sewn up in the ER. But you're willing to let a minor take things that prevent their puberty, and you think they get that back? You give a woman testosterone enough that she grows a beard, you think she's going to go back looking like a woman when you stop the testosterone? You have permanently changed them. Infertility is another problem. None of these drugs have been approved for this. They're all being used off-label. I find it ironic that the left that went nuts over hydroxychloroquine being used possibly for COVID are not alarmed that these hormones are being used off-label. There's no long-term studies. We don't know what happens to them. We do know that there are dozens and dozens of people who've been through this who regret that this happened and a permanent change happened to them. And, if you've ever been around children, 14-year-olds can't make this decision. In the gender dysphoria clinic in England, 10% of the kids are between the ages of 3 and 10. We should be outraged that someone's talking to a 3-year-old about changing their sex.
And Travis, one of the reasons he said, let the record show that the witness would not answer the question is because that answer that he gave, that Levine gave, he gave the same one repeatedly. And avoided every question that was asked by Senator Rand Paul.
Yeah, Tony, it was a total dodge because it's a legit question that the left does not want to answer. Do you really want to give and allow children to receive these harmful, mutilating procedures? No, and I'm glad this came up today because this issue is so important. This is why we've engaged on this at the federal and state level. There's a bill moving in Alabama that we'd address it now. Our experts have written on the harms caused by this and how this effectively sterilizes children. This issue needs to be seen and observed, and this exchange needs to be known by people because this is the kind of person that President Biden wants to put in charge of Health and Human Services or assist in being in charge of that agency. And they're not even recognizing they're dodging a question about protecting children's health. Very revealing, and I really hope people take note of this exchange.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, a hat tip to Senator Rand Paul for his courage and boldness, because quite frankly, we're already seeing it in the press today. He's being accused of bullying a transgender appointee or nominee. So he is drilling down on the facts, and I commend him for doing so. Travis, thanks so much for joining us today.